everyone. Hey, welcome back to more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, specifically Adventures. Last time we... this is not even a joke, why am I laughing? Last time we started, the, what is it? The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. So this time we'll be, investigating the crime scene, because we have, been assigned our case, and we've met our strange, defendant here, who is a real person, by the way, as I mentioned last time. We'll remind you about that. Let's move. Briar Road.
He too have a sweat droop on his forehead.
Sweet droop.
Strand Street. That's a bike. So this is where it happened. Briar Road.
Ah! Look, Mr. Naruhodo.
William Robbins?
Look at that regulation metal helmet. It's unmistakable. The men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak.
That is their job, you know.
But Mr. Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet.
What? The helmet?
Of course. I have to try one on someday.
Well, I hope your hatty dream comes true.
Good shit.
It won't.
Oh God. What's the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
Isn't it on the tourist trail? So I'm fairly sure you're well aware. And I'm fairly sure you're well aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
They've been to the holding cells then. What do you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
Huh. We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. It doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow. What? And whatever happens, and the verdict's a foregone conclusion.
Ugh. Stone cold air of rejection.
Take heart. London at this time of year is full of stone-cold air.
That makes it worse somehow.
Alright,
I guess we talked to the Bobby.
Henderson Brewery.
Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, I've been fascinated by the place.
The Yard is the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am.
Oh, and you know I've always dreamt of wearing a real Bobby's helmet.
It does make them look the part. Seeing that policeman there with his helmet on, suddenly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city.
Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Propaganda.
Well, I was, yeah. It's like 1900s propaganda, this, like, whatever.
Yeah, fair. Being a London Bobby is hard going, I can tell you.
Oh, really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes around and rounds all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up.
Yep. Raps on the windows with a long pole. Did myself going back a bit.
I had no idea.
Bobby works for the people of the town. It's just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance.
Can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way.
Let me see. 20 miles. That's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama.
On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far.
When it gets dark, of course, he has the important job of lighting all the gas street lamps.
Oh my.
suppose in between all of those duties, bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well.
And chase after criminals trying to evade the law.
Propaganda. I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside. But yeah,
Have a propaganda.
they're expected to handle those jobs well. We do have men keeling over from time to time, I admit.
I'd always dreamt of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do.
It happened around 5 in the evening, 2 days ago. Just there on that bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with a blade from behind.
Is it right that the lady's still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in hospital.
I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out much about her at all.
That means they haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course.
Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's the odd policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on.
I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still.
Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept.
Anyway, as far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did, do you think? Not much of a head scratcher, is it?
Well, I know Mr. Natsume is claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but...
But just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean we can be sure that nobody else was present.
I'm sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure.
How?
Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed.
What?
We have 2 very reliable witnesses, no less.
Oh!
It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them.
We're witnesses now? Yeah, there were no other people except these other people. Who are these witnesses, Inspector?
A fellow and his wife. A man's one of the most reliable, respected citizens of London.
Winston Churchill.
He's a copper from Scotland Yard.
Ah!
A policeman? That might change things.
And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked?
Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them, bagging the act and all that.
Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions?
Be my guest. You could ask him all you like. He court tomorrow.
Oh.
I've no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to.
That's that then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems.
A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed.
Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh, yes, one more thing, Inspector.
What?
Person who led you to the suspect. You hear that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes?
What do you bring him up for?
Is it something I said? The colors drained from his cheeks. Not the face ones.
Who do you hear that name from?
Oh, well, it was Mr. Nutsum who mentioned it. That Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings.
I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions.
Fiddle faddle!
Ah!
The man's an amateur, and I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere.
Oh,
I don't even know where he gets his information from, but he turns over the sea of the crime. Wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case.
yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he?
He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he?
Triple gal.
Ah!
Ever seen this before?
Oh, yes, that's Rand's magazine.
The wonderful publication in which the adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears.
Yes, well, that's wonderful publication, as you put it. She's been through several of the yard's detectives in its stories. And the so-called great detective makes a mockery of us all. As anyone at the yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any Sherlock Holmes tale at all.
Who the fuck is Sherlock Holmes?
Oh, fuck! Herlock Sholmes tale at all. Fuck.
Well, I suppose there is an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by the public thanks to the obnoxious detective. And that's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all our criminals.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector?
Really, the great detective and the police have a complex relationship.
Which Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow? Are you going to offend him or not?
Well,
Makes no difference to me. But I will just say this. No London lawyer with his soul touched that case with a barge pole.
39.5.
because the prosecution's being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean?
There's no way to save that man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all a bit strange, though.
Free?
The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now.
Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
The only people, and the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum, the master criminals, the violent ones.
Master criminals?
The violent ones?
That's right. He handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins.
But Mr. Nutsman wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely.
That's just my point, sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say the intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I'd be expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into, for want of a better phrase.
Oh, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it?
No, there's gotta be more to it. Someone really is taking an interest.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
You think I could tell you what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial.
I don't actually know what the answer to that particular question is, but my suspicion is that he thinks Naruhodo will probably take the case and he wants to face him in court again because he's interested in it, intrigued by him.
Possibly.
Well, why would he care about him? We're really going to have to face the Reaper again. Lord of Darkness, as he put it.
Because we intrigued him in the previous trial.
Yeah.
Look, you gave me so intriguing. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of the detective.
Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion?
Oh, yes, what is it?
Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this.
By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, exactly.
Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsume did blame Mr. Sholmes for all of this, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again.
Trouble is,
Oops.
I have no idea what is of the man's address even. So
It's Baker Street.
how do you know that?
It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street, the most famous address in the world.
Things aren't non-fiction. Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. Better try to find our way there before Susato-san gets any more excited and unpredictable.
Hurrah! I'll summon a carriage.
So we're going to have a reunion already. The great detective Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Oh boy.
I'm so giddy.
Oh boy.
Let's see. Ooh, a Custine.
Oh boy.
Pawnbrokers. Sell some prime pawn there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's just up there overlooking the street. Good day. Thanks again. This is it. The residence of Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
Been doing his voice way too high. He just has a shoe on his mantle. So this is where the great detective makes his living. Feels surreal to be here somehow. Is it as described in the stories, Mr. Sato? Susato-san?
Many, many famous cases have been solved here in this very room.
Oh, I suppose they must have been, yes. I've read the story, so it's hard to get quite as excited about it as she seems to be.
The detective chases the villain relentlessly as he disappears into the fog down an unlit London street. Oh, the thrill of it! The romanticism! Can't you feel your heart thumping in your chest? Can't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Are you feeling it now, Mr. Naruhodo?
Oh, I suppose I can, yes.
So if you don't mind, I'll just stand here and soak up the atmosphere for a while longer. Please don't mind me.
Ah, he's obsessed. He's a stan. Well, looks like our detective friend isn't home at present. Excuse me, is anybody home?
Probably Iris.
Oh, do we have a visitor?
Oh.
Oh, is it a big new case for Mr. Sholmes?
Hello? Wait. Aren't you...
Oh, how rude of me. I'll go make some tea at once.
I'm sure it's the same girl. Mr. Sato, did you see the girl who was just here?
Oh yes, isn't it truly extraordinary? To think that the King of Bohemia came to this very room to ask Mr. Sholmes to take on his case.
The King of Bavaria?
King Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund von Ulmstein, of course.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Forget the adventures of Herlock Sholmes for a moment and look over there.
Tea's brewed, and a freshly baked cake as well.
Ah, it's you!
Knew it. Susato-san recognizes her too.
Useless.
Ah, there you are. Are you going to shoot me in the head for being a little brat?
The same girl who turned up at the end of Mr. McGilda's trial in the defendant's antechamber.
She must have burned him to death.
Never met a lawyer from the Far East before. Or you, having to get straight to work when you've only just arrived in London.
Oh, yes, it was challenging.
Well, try this tea. It's my special blend, you know.
Thanks. Is tea supposed to look that color?
Oh my, what a fragrant yet mellow flavor.
Ray, it's a winner! I tried blending different leaves designed to alleviate fatigue, you see. Must be exhausted after your long voyage here. You have another English trial tomorrow. Oh, and you're to defend the Japanese man. I do wish you lots and lots of luck.
Did Mr. Sholmes tell you about us by any chance?
Oh, you know Hurley, do you?
Hurley. Mr. Sholmes to you, surely.
Mr. Sholmes was a
No,
fellow
no.
Oh,
Mr. Sholmes was a fellow passenger on the boat that brought us to Great Britain, you see.
Was he really? Well, I had no idea. Great Hurley's out on an errand again today, even though he's just returned from overseas.
wait a minute. We met this girl for the first time ever yesterday after the trial, only briefly at that. How on earth does she know so much about us? And why is her head so big? She deduce all those things, do you think?
And perhaps more to the point, why is she here in Mr. Sholmes' suite?
Oh, silly me. I haven't introduced myself, have I? It's a great pleasure to meet you both. My name's Iris Wilson. We live here together with Hurley.
Ah, Iris, is it? What a lovely name.
What?
What's the matter?
No, wait, this can't be. Did you say that your name is Wilson?
What's the matter with Susato-san? Why is she so flustered all of a sudden?
Yes, that's right. What are your names?
There's something to add, Ben?
Yeah. Did you already forget Susato? Or, rather, did you already forget Naruhodo?
Oh, I'm Rinosuke Naruhodo, a lawyer from Japan.
Oh, sorry. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. It's wonderful to meet you.
Lovely. Susie and Runo.
Susie?
Runo? More to this girl than meets the eye. She's a transformer. So many questions for her. I don't know where to start.
Yes, and so do I. Nope, I didn't mean to do that. Bye!
Fucking late!
It was you that we ran into yesterday, wasn't it? At the Old Bailey.
Yes, that's right. You were ever so helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh no, not at all. I'm so sorry we couldn't have been more welcoming.
Oh, at the time, we did have a rather large gun pointed at us.
Like this?
Ah, thinking back now, you left with Miss Lestrade in tow, didn't you?
Oh yes, that awkward witness, Gina Lestrade.
Ginny. Yes, she's a professional pickpocket.
So we found out.
It was very naughty of her to pinch my invention like that.
Are you referring to that trial-disrupting gun-like contraption?
Exactly. So I followed her, you see, to get it back. Perhaps I should think about fitting a self-destruct mechanism in my inventions.
This girl is dangerous.
Anyway, I brought Ginny back here after that. You could apologize to my trusty technician.
Sorry, your technician?
Early, of course, silly.
Hurley?
Yes, Herlock Sholmes. We live here together.
Couldn't make any jokes. I had no idea the great detective had such an interesting young daughter.
Daughter? Not likely.
What?
Wouldn't call him Hurley if it was my father, would I?
Well then, what is your relationship with Mr. Sholmes?
My stepfather. I expect you found out that lodgings of any kind in London are very expensive. The solution is to share the cost with a partner, a roommate.
My God, they were roommates.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Your roommates?
I hope you don't mind me asking, Iris, but how old are you?
Not last this year.
Oh, what of your mother and father?
Oh, no, they're not around.
Oh, I see. Wonder what the story is there.
Yeah, I wonder.
Oh,
Not like
yes!
your mom's dead or anything!
Thanks, Yosuke. Oh, yes, there's something I must ask you.
Of course. Go ahead, Susie.
I'm a very great fan of the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, and...
Oh, you have a copy of Rand's magazine.
Yes, I read every issue. It's delivered all the way to Japan on a ship.
This is so exciting. My stories are being read on the other side of the world.
My stories?
That's right. Hurley's always solving such amazing cases, you see, and tells me all about them. They really are quite fascinating. It would be such a shame if I was the only one to have heard of them. Don't you think?
Goodness!
Last night, he was telling me all about a new case he just solved on a steamship traveling from a faraway land. I was just in the middle of typing up the manuscript for the next issue before you came.
So you are the author?
Yes, I'll let you know the secret if you like. I'm going to call this latest adventure the Speckled Band.
Speckled Band? That's certainly very familiar.
Of course, I always change one or two details in the stories, here and there. This time, I had the idea of making a venomous snake be the cause of all the trouble.
Oh, that was Mr. Sholmes' first thought as well, actually.
Yes, and of course I know that a snake might not be a credible fit for the facts of the case exactly, but... It's a story. Some poetic license is justified to make it more thrilling, I think. Don't you?
So, do you mean to say... Are the stories about Mr. Sholmes that are published in Rand's magazine?
All written by me? Yes, on my wonderful and very modern typewriter.
But all the stories I've ever read are written by a doctor of medicine, Dr. John H. Wilson.
That sounds getting more and more worked up.
Ah, yes, that's me. I mean, my name really is Wilson.
But what about the doctor of medicine part?
That's all true too. I am a doctor of medicine.
No! At 10 years old?
At 10 years old.
Oh, that's quite incredible.
I love this anime bullshit. But
Yeah.
Dr. Wilson is an English gentleman.
You're just a little baby girl. I'm 1,000. Ah, yes. Did alter the setting slightly for the story to be more compelling.
Oh,
It sounds a little strange, doesn't it? Great detective with a 10-year-old girl in tow.
I suppose it does, yes.
Oh, Susato-san, she looks like her whole world has just fallen apart. About before.
Yes, yes. What's on your mind, Bruno? Do tell me.
How did you know? I was a lawyer, and we just arrived in London, I mean.
Yes. Oh, and that we have a difficult trial tomorrow. How did you know all of that?
That's what you mean.
Please, tell us how you did it. Explain every detail.
I'm a stalker. Of course, I'd be delighted. Although, there's really no mystery. Now, let's begin. Iris Wilson is proud to present Logic and Reasoning Spectacular.
It's like SNES controller buttons on a gun.
The First of all, I already knew that you were a lawyer, Runa. After all, I met you yesterday at the Old Bailey in the defendant's antechamber.
But you also said that we'd only just arrived in London. How did you know that?
You without a passport and travel ticket protruding from your breast pocket.
Oh,
I was reasonably confident that you must be one just arrived in the country. Must have only just arrived in the country. On top of that, accepted a case against that particular prosecutor. I mean, you were unaware of London's court affairs.
Reaper of the Bailey. I walked right into that one, didn't I?
And I noticed a red ink stamp on the back of Susie's hand. You were given that when you visited the local prison to meet with a suspect, weren't you? Earlier today.
She did not have that earlier.
Yeah.
Use of stamps to keep a close eye on comings and goings, you see.
I didn't realize.
Red stamp is only used for people visiting foreign inmates.
It's highly specific.
So, that tell me that even though you had only yesterday concluded the trial of Magnus be gilded, if you had already had cause to visit a foreign inmate at a local prison. However, neither of you was wearing a particularly sad expression on your face. Concluded that the prisoner was unlikely to be a friend or a relative. Led me to believe that you must have accepted a new case.
I see.
But how could you have known that the trial is tomorrow?
Well, having barely been home a few hours yesterday, Hurley solved yet another case. It obviously amused him. He told me that he caught a Japanese man who was bawling and trembling.
A Japanese man? Well, clearly that must have been... What's just not the same?
Oh, that was me. Mr. Natsume.
Aruna has a fancy Japanese sword. I think your outfit is called a kimono, isn't it, Susie? Anyway, it was clear to me that you both came from Japan yourselves. Put two and two together and decided you must be defending the Japanese man Hurley caught. There was only one conclusion those facts could lead me to. Both came here to ask Hurley about the case. The note on the mantelpiece that says the man's trial will be tomorrow. He's always stabbing his nose with a knife, you know. He's silly. And that's all there was to it, really. Thank you for listening. I'm Iris Wilson, and that was my TED Talk. It was one of my great... Well, was the winner? Were my deductions correct?
They were spot on.
That was amazing, Iris. Truly a great deduction.
He even managed to certain something about Mr. Sholmes' delivery.
Well, I was just copying Hurley's style for that.
This is really very good news. You could tell us all about the case involving the Japanese man. You will, won't you, Iris? Please?
So yesterday, Mr. Sholmes apprehended a Japanese man, you were saying?
Yes. Earlier just arrived back in London after the sea voyage. Police were waiting for him at the railway station to take him directly to the crime scene.
Ah, the great detective is a popular man, it seems.
Apparently a woman was stabbed in a quiet street somewhere in town. There were witnesses who had seen a short, shifty-looking, stooped man running away from the scene.
A short, shifty-looking, stooped man.
Mr. Natsume, beyond any doubt. Soseki-san said that he didn't see anybody else on the street at all. It seems there were witnesses after all.
At least his great deductive power to determine the man's address. There was a lodging room very nearby. He went directly there with the police, and what did they find? Short, shifty-looking, stooped man, shivering in fear.
Ugh. Mr. Sholmes' great deduction certainly hit the mark that time.
Of course it did. He's a great detective.
Still, that means the incident occurred only 2 days ago. Surely tomorrow is too soon for the trial, isn't it?
Definitely. We have no time to investigate properly.
Hurley says that London is rife with crime.
Oh.
Scotland Yard is doing its best, but they can't stay on top of it, apparently.
Oh dear, I hadn't realized the situation was so dire.
That's why they can't afford to spend too much time investigating cases and trying the criminals in court. Half and money are both short. Crimes are usually pinned on the first suspicious person.
That's terrible. I suppose it's the harsh reality of the workings of the world's greatest justice system.
I suppose it is. But in that case, don't hold out much hope for Soseki-san. Thank you for answering so many of our questions, Iris. This has been very informative.
Oh, you're most welcome. I've had so much fun.
Do you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is at the moment? As you guessed, we'd like to ask him some questions about this case as well.
Oh, well. Except Hurley's still investigating the scene.
The case involving Mr. Natsume, you mean?
Yes, Mr. Natsume? He said he was going to the man's lodgings. If you leave now, you'll probably catch him there.
Iris, do you know where those lodgings are?
Imagine the police are still investigating the scene of the crime themselves, aren't they? Did you happen to come across a detective by the name of Gregson when you were there?
Yes, we know Inspector Gregson.
Ah, goody. In that case. Greg, see this from me, would you? Do that. I'm sure he'd tell you what you want to know.
Is this?
A 5-shilling piece and a postcard, it seems. It reads, "Tell the gentleman in black whatever he wants to know. I trust that won't be a problem." Gosh, this will make the inspector help us, will it?
Well, thank you, Iris. We'll give it a try.
Good luck, then. I'm going to return to my work writing my manuscript. The Speckled Band. I'll make you more special blends of tea, so come back again soon.
We'd be delighted. Thank you so much, Iris. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, it's back to the scene of the crime.
Why do you keep punching the air? Didn't do anything. So, somewhat dubious that they would exert any influence over the men of Scotland Yard at all, we headed back to the scene with Iris's curious note and one of the world's heaviest silver coins in hand. To be continued.
I suppose that's the end of another segment. So we'll cut it there to avoid me having to edit this manually. And next time we'll return to the scene and see if we can't get some info from Gregson and have a look at the scene ourselves. See you then.